Really, me, I'm an investor. I've invested my money there.
You continue letting your money do the work for you, eh?
No. Why do you want me to be there day to day? All I know what happens there. Me, I've invested my money. I want, at the end of the month, I want my money in the bank. I want my profit. I've invested.
So you go invest in the stock exchange if that's the kind of work you think dairy farming is.
For now, it's 10 years since you started the dairy journey. How do you compare the production system and also the people approach towards a dairy business model those years and now?
I think there was more, at that time there was a lot more subsistent type farming thinking around dairy farming, and now there's a lot more business type thinking around dairy farming. I mean, even the forums that I'm on, once in a while you see figures, actual figures being discussed, production costs, discussions being had and things like those, which is fantastic. Because as the younger generation says, being woke, yeah, the dairy farmers now are a lot more woke than during our time. Remember the small talk I had with farmers here, 20-something plus farmers? Only 5 or 6 of them understood what I was saying. Now if I was to do the same thing, I think probably half of the farmers or more in attendance at that time would leave there having understood pretty much the zest of whatever I'm talking about at that time, if I was to have more or less the same training.
Now, there's this topic of business model that keeps on coming up, yeah? And especially as at Dairy Networks, we are very passionate about it. And this more touches on the startups and also the existing farms. Can I just work from for the future, yeah? Maybe 10 years time from now, I can project what will happen. Like, for instance, you are in Kiambu. We can all agree Kiambu is losing its superior genetics.
Yes.
That's a fact.
Yes.
As a farmer here in Kiambu, do you think I can figure out a business model around the future, bring it now, and work towards that 10 year? Maybe I can project in this area. For example, here is around the university. Everyone is quitting dairy farming, doing rentals, the land subdivision issues. Can I just be a very sharp entrepreneur, set up a dairy farm, aiming to supply milk around this area? Remember what we have said about Kiambu losing its own genetics. Can I figure out an idea of conserving, like the way you did it in 2013, 2014? You did a lot of breeding jobs. That's why even when you are selling cows, people would come and fight for those genetics. Do you think I can figure out a model around such an issue and turn it around and it becomes profitable?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel, if you look at international markets or what's happening internationally, there's a lot of consolidation. So you're finding a lot of small farms are either closing down or merging into big farms. I'm not sure if that will happen here, but I'd like to say I look at it as a very possible thing happening. And this is what could end up happening, in my opinion. So we used to have, I think, 8 processors a few years ago. Yamolo, Tuzo, and all those people, Ilara and everything. And all that got collapsed down into one processor. Why is it so far-fetched to imagine that dairy farms could be bought out? And here I don't mean the land itself. What I mean is the stock. So that will also answer your genetics question. So you have all this diverse genetic pool in different villages within Kiambu. But because of all this fragmentation of land, it's becoming less and less tenable for them to feed their cows off their own lands. So what happens if there's someone with a bigger tract of land within Kiambu, and here Kiambu is all the way to Thika, close to Kilimambogo if I'm not wrong. There are bigger tracts of lands outside on those sides. Is it so far-fetched to imagine that someone could consolidate the milk production from 60 farms or 20 farms into one mega farm? It's food for thought. I think it is possible. How sure I am, I can't give a percentage of surety, but I think it is possible. And if it is about preserving genetics, it cannot just be about genetics. Here is not that big a business. Yeah, like when we sit and we talk about sire stacks and those things, the average farmer doesn't really care about the super sires of this world and those kinds of bulls and how it's been bred. So all they want is AI. Kuja dunga ng'ombe yangu enda mali unenda. But there are certain dams that we have within Kiambu itself that have very good old blood. How they can be kept for posterity, I don't know. Short of the government doing it, that would be the only sensible thing. But a good businessman who would step in and see it as an opportunity, I know how we'll be able to sell genetics for genetics itself.
I've always thought of this one. There's this tagline I always like using it. Like poverty mentality. Like for instance, my father had probably 10 acres. We are 5 of us. I subdivided it into 2 acres. Maybe he had 30 cows. We subdivide again, everyone has 6 cows. We go our ways. I go and buy my own chaff cutter, 40,000. So the 5 of us will have a chaff cutter worth 200,000. Grow our own fodder individually. All of us, we have 2 or 1 employee. Each one, assuming everyone has 6 cows. We have 6 employees managing the 30 cows. Unreasonable. If I had the neighbors doing the same, if I had the same neighbors, a number of neighbors doing the same, we'll have, like in that society, we have so many chaff cutters, we have a lot of labor resource, but we can pull all these things, all these resources together and have a mega farm. I always dream of a day we'll never get to those heights. Probably the next generation will think, as I don't think we'll ever think that way, but I believe the next generation might think that way. So can I, as an investor, prepare for the future, or what will be your opinion? I prepare for the future. Start a farm that can accommodate 100 cows. I set up maybe the structures, and then people can bring in cows as shares.
True. That's doable.
That's where I see the future of dairy farming probably in the 20 years. Do you think it's an idea we can try and explore?
Yes, definitely. You see, one of the big things lacking for telephone farmers is the time to grow the expertise in taking care of cows. So as you've said, 6 workers taking care of 30 cows, whereas in ideally those should be about 3 doing it and well mechanized and everything. So one dairy farm manager managing a herd of 300 or 400 makes economic sense. I see people ask, oh, I'm looking for a dairy farm manager. How many cows do you have? 14. Maybe that's okay. If you really want to do it, yeah. But it can be supervised pretty easily if the systems are set up properly. But when you're getting to 300, herds of 300, 500, 1,000, for example, Yes, those farm managers make sense. And then there's going to be economies of scale for the purchase, procurement, growing, those things, concentrates. It make more sense to have your own feed mill to make your own concentrates and have a production manager for that or production supervisor. That kind of thinking makes sense. But what is sad is in a place like Kiambu, the land is already broken up. So I don't know how we can reconstitute
about
it.
30 million. Huh? An acre is close to 30 million. You can't buy.
Yeah, where we are now. I mean, you're going to buy an acre for 30 million to plant maize for silage. Really? You get my point. Or put cows on 30 million. You have big land and it's 30 million an acre. You can put a mega structure of 50 cows on it. Fantastic.
Now, from the previous discussion, there's something you mentioned, and I can see even our crew here asked that question, and they're keeping on asking that question. What is this animal that you call the dry matter? Can't I just dry my feeds and feed to cows and get that milk? It's that so direct to get it. Or what is really this dry matter, and why do I get it? And one question that always keeps coming up, even when dairy networks does their trainings, we go for consultancy, this question keeps on coming up. If I feed my cows dry matter, they'll drink more water and produce more milk. Why can't it be that so direct? Why do you have to keep on pumping a lot of information? Can you help us to break it down further so that everyone can understand the whole concept?
As you've rightly put it, it's a concept. And I wish farmers out here, in fact, let me speak to you farmers directly. So, you need to understand there's no feed called dry matter. Dry matter is a term that refers to the amount of moisture present in a certain feed. So there's no, the way there's hay or maize silage, there's no feed called dry matter. Okay? You can either have feed that is moisture rich or moisture low. So when you remove the term moisture and substitute it with dry matter, then you use the term properly. So it's low dry matter and high dry matter. So high dry matter means there's little moisture, low dry matter means there's a lot of moisture. So it's kind of like opposite. So it's telling you that the part of that fodder that concentrate that is feed, or where the feed values lie, is that which we call dry matter. So if you want to calculate how much protein there is in feed, first of all you have to know how much dry matter is in that feed. Then you'll be able to know how much protein is in the feed, because there's no protein in water, for example, or the moisture part of it. So once you remove, say, you'll take your maize silage for lab analysis, they'll tell you it's 28% dry matter. Okay, so that means that it's 72% of it is moisture. The part which contains the nutrients is in that 28%. Okay?
So, are you trying to say if I was to take 1 kg of maize silage here, I remove water, and the water content there is
1%.
I take a kg of maize silage, I dry it and remove water, and then I realize 70% or 0.7 kgs was water. So the other remaining 0.3, that is now the dry matter.
Yes.
So it doesn't mean I go and cut my maize,
no,
dry it,
no,
so that my cows can get access to dry matter.
No. You see, for the silage to become silage, there's need for moisture for the bacteria to work, and they can't work on a stone. For example, it's 100% dry. So the moisture in itself creates a certain environment for bacteria, protozoa, and fungi and everyone else to do what they are doing within the maize clump. The point is that below a certain dry matter level, it starts to affect digestion. Why? Because the cow can't eat all that it requires when most of it is moisture. Okay? So then the fallacy comes here, oh, then chukua hay, imekauka kabisa, katakata, itakula tu kidogo. Yes, itakula kidogo. The problem is how much nutrients is in that. That's where the problem starts coming in.
So all the nutrients are in the dry matter.
Yes, the dry matter fraction of the feed. So there's dry matter and moisture. Remove moisture, you're left with dry matter.
Now, in this dry matter, what quantity of dry matter does it require in a day?
Okay, so there's a rule of thumb. And depending on who you're speaking to, you'll either hear 3%, 3.5%, or 4%. Depending on who you're speaking to. Let that not worry you too much. Now, you take your live weight, 600, if you can put it on a ratili, it says 600 kilo, multiply by the number you choose. I like to use 3.5%. Tends to be in the middle of whoever is talking. So 3.5% of that body weight is what gives me indication of the total dry matter that the cow requires. So that would be what? 3% is...
For the purpose of this one, let's use 4.
Okay, let's use 4%.
So that one gives you 24.
24 kilos of dry matter in a day. Okay.
So this 24 means whatever I'm feeding, if I was to remove water, the remnant should be 24
kilos.
So if I have a way rather than the cow just, in taking it through the mouth all the way to the rumen, if I have an easier way of putting it inside the rumen, that one will be much easier for me.
Yes.
I'm home and dry.
Yes, and save you a lot of feeding time as well.
From your experience and also from your experience as a dairy farmer and a friend to the farmers, what is this we do wrongly that affects this cow taking the 24 kgs of dry matter in a day?
First and foremost, I think a lot of these things tend to be between physical issues, number one. Number two, some very simple things like chop size of the fodder. Give the cow stems like this. And those
Does it matter how I do it?
A cow won't finish that thing. Mechoka kabla imeshiba.
No, but me niko napanga pale. I come from the place I come from. When I was young, you'll get those green maize stalk, the napier, chukua panga, kata maratatu, uyambie jitegeme. Are you telling me we are doing something wrong?
Yes.
And how does it really affect that particular size?
What ends up happening, because cows don't chew, they swallow. The first time they swallow. So whatever you put there when the cow is grazing or anything, it bites and swallows. There's no chewing at that particular point. So what's ending up happening is you're giving it a size it can't swallow. Okay? So it forces the cow to start to try and chew it and break it down. First of all, that's just completely wasting the cow's time and feeding time and resting times and everything. Number two, issues around choking. But what ends up happening is in the rumen, you start introducing very big fiber sizes. So what happens, the bacteria that would have otherwise broken it down cannot attach efficiently around the fibers. So you have big fiber pieces of sauce. So that will hold less bacteria than if this was totally broken up into something smaller. So the bacteria can access it and start to break it down and release their own propionic acids and those kinds of things that now that the cow can absorb and use that to make milk and whatever else is needed at that stage in the cow's existence. So what ends up happening again is this cycle of chewing cud and breaking, because when the cow regurgitates to chew the cud, it's breaking down to more digestible fiber sizes. So you're just making that process extremely long. So what ends up happening, the cow can't intake more. And that's just at the beginning level of all this thing. It can't intake more because it has to chew this, break it down so that it can evacuate the rumen and create more space for more to come in. Okay, so those are some very direct, immediate, top of the mind issues that are coming up with this punker.
Now, what will be the appropriate size?
I think an inch.
An inch is okay.
Yeah, an inch is okay.
It's that so direct.
Yes, I've seen chaff cutters cut less than an inch. I find it totally fascinating because then again, the digestion system takes this a bit too fast. So you end up finding the farmer is now being forced to use hay. They mix hay and napier or hay and maize or what and chop it together so that there's a bit of slowdown because this is longer fiber, technically longer. But then again, you're chopping it to half an inch. Everything is evacuating. You go to the cowshed, there's a lot of matope inside there. And someone's not understanding. Ng'ombe yangu inahara kila wakati.
Si niko na greenhouse nataka manure.
Sasa afadhali visa hii imeshikana, unaweza chota upeleke greenhouse. Hii ingine ya matope kabla uifagie ingie huko. Too much work.
Would maybe I'm trying to just imagine whatever you're talking about, the fiber and everything. Would the digestibility affect this dry matter intake?
Yes, and this is where the problem with hay comes for me. You feed too much hay, it takes too long to be broken down or digested, what you're calling digestibility. The term itself just says how digestible is that feed, preferably over a fixed period of time. So if it takes too long, it means that there is no space for more to come in. Kabisa. Long fiber has its benefits in the large intestines and creating the volatile fatty acids and everything. But the problem is you can't just have one size fits all for this fodder business. There has to be a balance. Okay, so you want the fiber to slow down so that the moisture is absorbed totally from the feed and you have more dung that is better held together and stuff like that. You can look at your fiber chop sizes and things like those. But then again, when it's not digestible, when is it going to leave the digestive tract? Natoka kama mawe huko baada ya twice the time it would take more digestible feed to go through the system. And then again, the digestive system for ruminants isn't efficient by nature. It's just I think they say 35% efficient. So what semantics are we dealing with here? It's already an inefficient machine. So what are you doing? Putting high performance oil in a Volkswagen, synthetic oil in a Volkswagen, does it help? Yeah. So there are those things which once you start to understand, you get a good middle ground. And I like these days because there's a better understanding of things like maize silage and how you can use maize silage and in your feeding programs and stuff like that, and the shortfalls that it has and how to supplement for those shortfalls and things like that.
So as a farmer, I should be very concerned about the stage I harvest my crop. Otherwise, I might end up affecting the dry matter intake.
Yes, totally. I mean, if you harvest your crop too late, formed a lot of lignin. First of all,
what is this lignin, Buana Willie? Stop complicating life.
I think lignin is now if we have to start going towards lignin, we'll go into another lesson on nutrition altogether. But basically, lignin is a defense mechanism for plants to either prevent being eaten or to give structural strength for the plant. So you notice as a plant grows taller, the stem starts to harden.
A classical example is the sugar cane.
Yes.
Oh, I am sorry. I meant the napier that becomes sugar cane.
Yes. The one with the balcony.
Yes, the one with
the balcony up there. Yeah. So you find the stems are so hard. That hard bit, that is lignified cells. So the cells themselves have a protection around them that allows it to be strong. It can stand. Or if it is eaten, it can't be chewed easily. So it becomes not a very tasty thing to eat. Yeah, so the plant, that is its defense mechanism and its survival mechanism, because what's happening is the plant is growing and heading towards flowering, and flowering is the next generation. So it starts to strengthen itself to be able to hold the next generation, which would be the seeds and maize cobs, for example, and those kind of the heads in napier grass and sugarcane and stuff like that. That's the purpose of lignin. But it also discourages animals from eating it, becomes less palatable. So the animal that would want to chew it would find hiyo ni kazi mingi, so it doesn't eat. So that guarantees survival for that plant into the next generation. So the lignin itself is for the plant. So when the animal is trying to ingest that one, remember there's a protection around the cell. How does it break down that protection around the cell to access the cell contents themselves? There's where all the mitochondria and energy production and everything is going on inside there. How does it access that? So the people who like the fast flow napier grass and those kinds of things, overgrown fodder, yes, it may look sensible that you have bulk fodder.
Lakini nikuulize, whenever I
There is
harvest
no
my
argument,
napier,
Patrick.
no, when I harvest my napier at 1 meter, inakula yote inamaliza very fast.
Yes.
But now when I do that first floor, second floor napier, our good friend,
Yes.
told us it's an apartment.
Yes.
So when I feed those apartment like napier, inakula kidogo.
Yes.
Inaenda inashinda hapo imeshiba. Why would you insist for me to go for that one, whereas I have a shortcut here?
You see, fine, it'll eat this overgrown napier grass and everything. Alafu unakuta ng'ombe zimekonda. It is not costing you much to feed. You are saving. But the body condition goes to hell. So what happens? After body condition goes to hell, reproduction goes to hell. You have 3-year-old heifers that don't even know what heat is. It's 36 months, never come on heat.
You mean my apartment like a napier can lead me to that?
Yes.
The cow doesn't have access to the
yes.
nutrients.
Yes.
It's not digestible.
Nothing.
Basically the cow is full and but
yes.
hungry.
Yes. Ni kama imekula makaratasi.
Wow. Niache kupatia apartment like napier.
Yes. If you can get an apartment type napier that is not lignified, which I don't know how you'll do it, well and good if you're looking for bulk. But I tell farmers, listen, if you know we are cutting at 1 meter and you know an acre is giving you so many tons per acre, you know your cows require so much. So you know how much acreage to plant. Period. Don't make the acre give you what it's not supposed to give you, because there's something it is going to take away. And as the plant grows older, the nutrients available in the leaves or in the stem or goes reducing. Why? It goes to the seed side to make the next generation. So again, you have 3 meter tall napier grass that's just as good as firewood. In fact, you give me that one, I run my jiko with it. Fantastic.
Nice barbecue.
Oh, very good.
Hardwood.
Yes. Very hard in that case. Very, very hard.
Are there, from a structure perspective, the cow shed, is there a way I can build my cow shed and affect that dry matter intake? Remember, you have a target of 24 kgs per day. I'm trying to imagine the way you have enjoyed some nice meat here. Then you place it there from that end. In that I'll have to stand up, go all the way, pick a piece, come back. I'm sure by the time I'm doing the second round, I'll tell you, kana nyama yako.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know you are that mean that you can punish me all. Are there structural issues that can affect that intake?
Yes. I've seen this a lot in a lot of dairy farms. First of all, I like to just use a very simple example. Most of us have seen cows grazing. We know how a cow grazes, how it bends down and takes the grass from the ground. When we build a trough, we are trying to mimic that. So when you have the trough so high up, what are you helping that cow? Do you bring the feed closer? No. What ends up happening, it just ends up messing the physiology for the cow a bit. Okay, that's not its natural eating position. Okay. Number 2, you need to have, like here when we've eaten, there were clean plates. Okay. Why are we feeding on clean plates? Because we know what the health concerns from bacteria and dirt is. So when you have troughs that can't be cleaned, they just can't easily be cleaned, how do you avoid bacteria? And
it's
mycotoxins.
inevitable.
Yeah, and especially if you feed concentrates in the feeding trough, you're going to have mycotoxins in there. And all these other issues that come up. So there are some very basic things, very, very basic things that will affect how much dry matter can be intaked. Okay? Then when you, as you said, access, let the cows be able to see where they feed. You can have a feed trough right across, say, a cow shed, eh? And still have 2 lines of sleeping cubicles here, maybe head to head or something. But the cows, once they get up, they can easily access that. There's no place where they can be gridlocked by, say, a bully cow. You know, there are these cow sheds which the feeding troughs are so squashed, it only fits 5. If one cow is a bully and takes up space for, because I've seen cows which just stand across the feed trough this way. Hivi, imekula imeshiba, it doesn't want anyone else to eat. So the weaker ones, where do they go to feed? If the feed trough was only that wide. You know, those kinds of things. So there's some mistakes which are made because you didn't want to ask. We fundi wapo mtaani kuja nataka nyumba ya ng'ombe.
So building a cow shed is a bit technical.
Oh yes, not a bit. It is a lot technical.
Now,
you need to have understood
I as
cows.
a farmer, is there a way that I can affect the cow negatively from getting its required dairy dry matter intake? For instance, there are some of us farmers who limits the feeds. Iyo weka bucket mbili peke yake. Could that affect the dry matter intake?
Yes, definitely. Most definitely.
What will be the appropriate practice?
The appropriate practice is for there to be feed in the troughs most of the time. Okay? But the one thing I say is your timing is more important. After milking, there has to be feeding. Remember, you've taken away. So you need to replenish. You take away, you need to replenish. Start that replenishment almost as immediately as you've taken out. Okay? The feed has to be enough, more than enough. So, because you know, a lot of farmers, here's where they make the mistake. Because they don't know how to calculate dry matter intake. They don't know how much feed to place. So there's a lot of trial and error there. And that trial and error, they are hungry cows. Because you're trying to avoid wastage. Fine, you're avoiding wastage, but you're underfeeding. So the cow will eat, it's relatively full, but it hasn't reached its dry matter intake for the day, but it will survive. So it will go drink water.
What will be the negative effect?
Everything.
Or
production, reproduction, body condition, you name it.
Health,
everything.
growth.
Stunted growth.
Everything will be in a total mess.
Everything is regressing. When you think you are saving, and farmers, listen, mistake I made. When you think you are saving, a lot of times you're shooting yourself in the foot. You have 3-year-old heifers, never come on heat. They are called bulling heifers at 36 months. And bulling really should end at 18 months. The term, bulling heifer should end at 18. It's either an in-calf heifer or you go slaughter it.
Be nice.
Chinja
Wachana na
hiyo
sisi.
kitu bana, kama wezi lisha chinja hiyo kitu.
No, be nice.
Story dies.
No, be nice.
For?
We'll do the right thing. We'll make those correction.
Nikuje
At this rate, I can see you have the butcher knife.
No.
I might get myself into 2 hands.
No. Not at all.
Now, Your parting shot regarding the dry matter as we head to see the Napier field?
Farmers, if you can, just take some time to read up and understand nutrition in general, but specifically dry matter and dry matter intake. Learn what dry matter is and how it affects, and what dry matter carries, and the nutrients and the nutrient profiles and some things. What you hear, crude protein, metabolizable energy, and those kinds of things. Just understand them, even if you can, in a pedestrian manner, but in a manner that you can be able to make feeding decisions about. Because there are times everyone tell you maize silage, you'll go somewhere else and they're telling you, no, Napier grass and concentrate and we are fine and we are getting 38 liters. You should be able to analyze that situation and realize why that guy can get 38 liters from concentrates and Napier grass, and in your area you can't, for example. But once you understand dry matter and nutrient and how the nutrient profiles lay in the dry matter itself, then you should be able to make pretty informed feeding decisions.
Mic down.